I surprised my sister with a birthday trip. Months of planning, saving, and dreaming, because deep down, I believed I was her favorite person. But it turned out she'd already gone. Same trip, same destination. And she didn't go alone. She went with my childhood best friend. Chloe would have never seen it coming. She loved surprises, but she loved control more. If she'd known what I was up to, she would have tried to tweak the plans, micromanage the details, maybe even blow it up into something bigger, because that's just who she was. But this time, I wanted her to have something effortless, something pure. I'd been saving since January, skipping dinners out, saying no to little splurges, just so I could give her something unforgettable. A beachside resort, tucked along a stretch of tropical coastline I knew she'd love. No stress, no work calls, just the two of us, sister time like we used to have. We'd always been close, or I thought we were. Chloe was the bright one, the outgoing one, the center of every room. And me? I was the quiet shadow beside her, but I never minded. I liked being the steady one, the one who made sure she got home safe, the one she could count on. She was the star, I was her anchor, and still she was my sister, my best friend, or so I believed. The morning of her birthday, I was practically glowing. My overnight bag was packed, everything booked down to the last detail, flights, hotel, spa treatments. I grabbed my keys and headed to her apartment, heart racing with anticipation. I kept picturing her reaction, that wide-eyed shock, the squeal of excitement, the way she'd throw her arms around me and whisper, "You're the best." Just once, I wanted to feel like I was the most important person in her world. But when I knocked, there was no answer. I frowned and called her straight to voicemail. I texted, nothing. My stomach did a small flip, but I brushed it off. Maybe she was out grabbing coffee, or maybe she already knew and was pretending not to. I chuckled at the thought, classic Chloe. Just as I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. A notification, social media. I swiped it open without thinking. And in an instant, everything shifted. There she was, Chloe, at the exact place I had planned. Not just a beach, not just any vacation. She was already at the resort I had booked, smiling, laughing, sipping a cocktail by the same pool I had picked out for us. And she wasn't alone. My breath caught, tight and sudden, because sitting beside her, raising her glass for a toast, was Mia. Mia, my childhood best friend. For a second, I just stared at the screen, frozen, not blinking, not breathing. My brain scrambled for some explanation, some way this wasn't what it looked like. But it was. There was no mistake, no mix-up. Chloe had gone on my trip, the one I had planned for her, and she had gone with Mia. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the photos, post after post from the past few days, them posing in front of the resort entrance, having dinner at the same upscale restaurant I had booked, taking selfies on the same stretch of beach I'd chosen so carefully. And then, the caption. Best birthday trip ever. Can't believe I finally made it here. So grateful for this girl right here. It hit like a punch straight to the gut. That was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be the one making her birthday unforgettable. I was supposed to be the girl she was grateful for. Instead, she was living it up without me. And she hadn't said a word. My hand tightened around my phone as I hit call. She picked up after 2 rings. "Oh, hey, Ava," she said, her voice light, easy, like nothing was wrong. "What's up?" "What's up?" I repeated, my voice shaking. "Are you serious, Chloe?" She paused. What do you mean?" Behind her, I could hear the waves. Laughter, clinking glasses. My heart dropped. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to stay calm. "I'm at your apartment. I came to surprise you. With a trip. To the same resort you're at right now." Silence. A pause just long enough to confirm everything. Then, an awkward little laugh. "Oh, you weren't supposed to find out this way." My stomach twisted. "So you knew." Chloe let out a breath. "Ava, don't make this a big deal." "Don't make this a big deal," I repeated, barely holding it together. "Chloe, I spent months planning this trip for you. I saved up, I booked everything, and you just went without me?" She sighed, annoyed, like I was the problem. "Look, Mia and I planned this a while ago. It just kind of happened." It didn't just happen, I snapped. You knew exactly what you were doing, and you didn't even bother to tell me. Silence stretched thin between us. Then Chloe sighed again. Ava, you get so intense about things. I didn't think you'd care this much. My heart cracked. You didn't think I'd care, I whispered. Chloe, I thought I was your best friend. She didn't respond. I clenched my jaw, forcing the lump in my throat back down. And Mia, I asked, my voice colder now. She didn't think to tell me either. Chloe hesitated, and that pause, told me everything. Mia had known, she had known, and she chose Chloe, not me. The realization hit like a collapse from the inside out. My sister had replaced me, and so had my best friend. I pulled the phone away from my ear, my vision blurring at the edges. Chloe's voice was still coming through, soft, defensive, full of half-hearted excuses. But I wasn't listening anymore, because suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't bad timing. They had planned this trip months ago, before I even started saving, before I ever imagined surprising Chloe. They knew, and they let me walk straight into heartbreak. They let me think I was special, that I mattered, that I was still someone worth choosing. But I wasn't, not to them. I took a shaky breath, my grip tightening around my phone. For years, I believed Chloe was my favorite person, but now, I finally realized I had never been hers. I don't remember hanging up the phone. One moment, Chloe was still talking, still tossing out empty excuses, still pretending this was some harmless misunderstanding. And the next, the line had gone silent. I stood frozen in front of her apartment, my knuckles white around my phone. My mind raced. My chest tightened with something sharp and unfamiliar. I had been so sure she'd be thrilled, that she'd light up when I surprised her, that she'd call me her favorite person, like she always did in birthday posts and holiday cards. But the truth was right in front of me now, clear, raw, impossible to ignore. I wasn't her favorite person. Maybe I never had been. And the worst part, she knew I was planning something. She saw the effort, the care, the thought I poured into it. And still, she went behind my back. With Mia. Mia. The girl who had been by my side since we were kids. The one who held my hand through every heartbreak, every mistake, every messy chapter of my life. I used to think we had just drifted apart, that time and life had gotten in the way. But now I saw the truth. She hadn't drifted. She had moved on. From me. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at Chloe's door like it might open and give me a different version of reality. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to shove the hurt down deep and let fury take over. But all I felt was that crushing, humiliating ache. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone. I had spent years making Chloe my priority. Her needs, her comfort, her happiness. And now, standing outside her empty apartment, realizing I'd been so easily replaced, I had never felt smaller. I swallowed hard, blinking fast. I couldn't just stand here. I needed answers. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Mia. It rang twice before she answered. Ava, she said, surprised. Her voice sounded small, hesitant, maybe even guilty. I felt a sharp pang in my chest. Where are you? I asked, my voice tight and cold. Mia hesitated. She knew I had found out. She cleared her throat. I'm out of town. I let out a short, bitter laugh. No kidding. Silence stretched between us. Then I said her name, lower now, steady and firm. Mia, tell me the truth. How long have you and Chloe been planning this? Another pause. Ava, it's not what you think. No, I snapped. Don't do that. Don't pretend this is some big misunderstanding. She exhaled, and I could almost see her, the way she'd look down, biting her lip, like she always did when she knew she was in the wrong. Finally, she said it. A few months. The words hit like a slap. A few months. Before I even had the idea. Before I started saving. Before I gave up weekends, treats, time for them. They were already making plans. Without me. My stomach twisted. And neither of you thought to tell me? Mia sighed. Ava, Were you ever going to? I cut her off, my voice sharp and rising. Or were you just going to keep pretending we were still friends until I figured it out myself? She didn't answer, and that silence told me everything. I clenched my jaw, trying to stay steady, trying not to crack. "What happened, Mia?" I asked softly. "When did I stop being your best friend?" She inhaled sharply, like she'd hoped I wouldn't ask that. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Ava, we just grew apart." I squeezed my eyes shut, biting hard on the inside of my cheek. "No," I said. "You chose to grow apart." Another long pause. Then quietly, "Maybe." I let out a slow, shaky breath, and in that breath, the sadness started to burn away. That was the moment anger took its place. I had spent years believing Mia and I were still close. I'd made excuses every time she faded, every time she canceled, every time she stopped showing up. I told myself she was busy. I told myself it was just life. But it wasn't. I had told myself it was just life. Just the way friendships fade when things get busy. That nothing was really wrong. But something had been wrong. For a long time, I had just been too blind, too hopeful, to see it. Mia kept talking, trying to explain, to fix, to soften the blow. But I wasn't listening anymore. I hung up. And for the first time in my life, I blocked her number. Not just hers, Chloe's too. Because I was done. I had spent my whole life as the second choice, the afterthought, the one who waited around, hoping that one day Chloe and Mia would see me the way I saw them. That maybe they'd realize everything I gave. But the truth, they never would. To them, I had never been the first pick. I was the backup, the default, the one who was always there, so predictable, so dependable. They assumed I always would be. But not anymore. This time, I wasn't chasing, I wasn't begging, I was walking away. The next morning, I woke up feeling different, lighter in some strange way, but also angrier, not just at them, at me, for letting it get this far, for giving too much to people who gave so little back. But that anger, it wasn't heavy, it wasn't poison. It was power, and if Chloe and Mia thought they'd won, if they thought I'd curl up, disappear, and let them pretend I never mattered, then they didn't know me at all. I wasn't just moving on. I was going to make damn sure they regretted ever letting me go. The pain was still there, yes, but it had changed. It wasn't soft or sad anymore. It was sharp, focused. I had spent years believing they were my people, my sister, my best friend, the two people who were supposed to know me better than anyone else. But now, I saw the truth. They hadn't just replaced me. They had chosen to. And now, it was my turn to choose. I wasn't crying over them anymore. I wasn't waiting. I was going to make sure they never forgot what they lost. And that afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I posted the truth. No names, no drama, just the truth. There's nothing worse than realizing you spent years loving people who never really loved you back. Some betrayals hit deeper than others, but losing them, that's not my loss. It's theirs. Because I don't chase people who don't want me in their lives. And I sure as hell don't beg for friendships that were never real. I hit post, and I let it sit. I didn't need to tag anyone. Everyone who needed to see it would. It didn't take long. That night, Chloe unblocked me and sent a text. "Well, seriously, you're posting vague dramatic quotes now?" I stared at the screen for a second, then smirked. "Did I mention your name?" "You didn't have to," she wrote. "We all know who you were talking about." "Then maybe," I typed back. "You should ask yourself why it hit so hard." Silence. I could practically see her fuming. Chloe hated not being in control. She thought I'd stay quiet. Let her and Mia move on while I sat in the background, nursing the fallout. But now she knew I wasn't going anywhere quietly. And she hated it. 2 days later, Mia reached out. Not with a message, not even a call. She left a comment under the post. "I don't know if this is about me, but if it is, I just want to say I never meant to hurt you." I almost laughed. She wasn't even pretending to be innocent, just trying to save face. I didn't reply because she wasn't worth my words anymore. Then something unexpected happened. People noticed, old friends, coworkers, even distant acquaintances started reaching out, not to gossip, but to share. One girl I hadn't heard from since high school sent a message. "I always thought Chloe treated you unfairly. She made everything about her, and you just let her." I'm glad you finally see it. That came from another old friend who messaged me out of the blue. I lost touch with Mia, too. She always seemed to drop people the second someone cooler came along. You deserve better, Ava. It was like a switch had flipped. For years, I'd seen Chloe and Mia as these flawless, untouchable fixtures in my life. Like they were above it all, above me. But now I saw it clearly. I wasn't the only one they'd hurt. This wasn't a one-time betrayal, it was a pattern. And I had finally broken free from it. The final straw came a week later. I was sitting in a coffee shop, finally starting to feel like myself again, when my phone buzzed. A call from Chloe. I let it ring. Then a voicemail. I hesitated before hitting play. Her voice came through, tight and defensive. Ava, I don't know what your problem is, but you're acting ridiculous. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It was just a trip. You need to let it go. I scoffed, shaking my head. She still didn't get it. She still thought this was about the trip. She didn't realize it was about every moment she took me for granted. Every time she counted on me to be there without ever wondering if I was okay. Every time she treated me like an option, never a priority. Then her voice softened. Mom's been asking about you. A pang hit my chest. She says you haven't called. She thinks you're mad at her too. Are you fucked, or are you just punishing all of us because you can't handle things not going your way? And there it was, the guilt trip. The same manipulation Chloe always used to flip the script. The same twisted logic that made me feel like I was the problem. The same tactic our parents used. Make me the fixer, the peacemaker. But not this time. This time, I saw it for what it was. I let the voicemail sit for a minute, then I deleted it. I didn't call her back. I didn't call Mom either. Because if they really cared, they'd reach out with honesty, not blame. They'd own what they did. They'd see the damage. But I knew they wouldn't. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care. That night, I went out with friends, real friends. The kind who showed up without needing a reason. The kind who didn't keep score. The kind who didn't make me feel like I had to earn their love. We laughed. We drank. We danced until our feet hurt and our voices cracked from shouting over the music. And somewhere in the middle of it all, sweaty, breathless, glowing, I realized something. I was happy, not the fake kind of happy I used to force when I was bending over backwards to feel wanted. Not the kind of happy that needed approval, attention, or validation. This was different. This was peace. The kind that comes from finally letting go. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't miss Chloe. I didn't miss Mia. I didn't miss any of it. Because I was done waiting for people to treat me right. I was finally treating myself right. Days passed. I waited for the regret to creep in, for the sadness to return like it always had. That ache in your chest, the doubt in your gut, the late-night temptation to go back, to reach out. But it never came. Instead, every morning I woke up feeling lighter. Like I'd been carrying a weight for years without realizing it. Until suddenly, it was gone. Chloe kept texting. Her tone shifted by the day, first annoyed, then fake concerned, then furious. One message read, "You're seriously dragging this out? It was a trip, Ava. Get over it." When I didn't respond, she followed up. "I'm actually starting to worry about you. Is everything okay?" Ignored. Then she snapped. "You're being immature. You can't just cut me out of your life." So I finally replied, "Watch me." I knew that stung. I knew she hated it. Hated not being in control. Hated that I wasn't playing my usual role, the forgiver, the fixer, the one who always came back. But this time, she had gone too far. She let me plan my own heartbreak. She smiled and laughed with Mia while I sat at home, thinking I was her favorite person. She had known. She made her choice. And she assumed I would just take it. Then something unexpected happened. I ran into Mia at a coffee shop, one of our old spots. The kind of place where we used to spend hours talking about everything and planning the future like we had all the time in the world. I hadn't expected to see her there. And from the way her eyes widened when she saw me, neither had she. For a moment, we both just stood still. Then, cautiously, she got up and walked over. "Ava," she said, almost hesitant. I just looked at her. This was the girl who once knew everything about me. The one I trusted with every part of my life. And now, looking at her, I felt absolutely nothing. She shifted awkwardly. I've been meaning to reach out. I raised an eyebrow. But you didn't. She swallowed. I didn't know if you'd want to talk to me. I let out a short, humorless laugh. I think you already knew the answer, Mia. She winced. Look, I feel awful about everything. I tilted my head. Do you, though? She hesitated. I never wanted to hurt you, Ava. I let her words settle in the air, then shook my head. You say that, but you did it anyway. Mia exhaled, dragging a hand through her hair. I don't know what else to say. Then don't say anything, she blinked. What? If you don't know what to say, I shrugged. Don't force an apology just because you feel guilty. Mia frowned. That's not fair. I let out a slow breath, my voice calm but cutting. You know what's not fair? Letting me believe we were still friends while you went behind my back. Watching me plan something special for Chloe while you already knew she had made plans with you. Seeing me get excited and never once thinking, hey, maybe Ava should know. Mia swallowed hard, but she didn't argue, because she knew I was right. I sighed. You and Chloe deserve each other. Then I picked up my coffee and walked out. This time, I didn't look back. That night, something shifted. I realized I didn't need revenge. I didn't need some dramatic plan to make them regret what they did. Because they already would. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day. People like Chloe and Mia always think they can take what they want, use who they want, and never face consequences. But eventually, they run out of people to betray. One day, Mia will realize Chloe isn't the perfect best friend she thought she was. That Chloe will turn on her too, the moment someone better, shinier, more convenient comes along. And when that day comes, she'll understand exactly what she did to me. In the months that followed, I focused on myself. I booked a solo trip, something I'd never dared to do before. I reconnected with old friends, the ones I'd pushed aside while chasing the approval of people who never really wanted me. I went out, I had fun, I lived. And for the first time, I wasn't thinking about Chloe or Mia. I wasn't wondering if they missed me. I wasn't hoping for an apology. I wasn't waiting for anything. Because I finally understood. I didn't need them. I never did. Months later, Chloe sent one last message. A short, simple text. I miss you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Because I